So now I'm going to ask Dr. Gromoff, who's come over from Moscow, to give us a picture on demand in terms of business methodology and organisation and where this is going and how we relate this demand that's driving all the time across to business. Dr. Gromoff, over to you.
Thank you. Here was mentioned several times Russia. How did I say you? Moscow is in Russia. House in French. Green, yes. Going immediately to the kernel of presentation, I'd like to get everyone in to the certain concepts which will be used further and which we have to understand for understanding each other and to find mutual language. First of all, it's a concept of enterprise architecture, which consists from business architecture, organizational structure, information architecture, and technology architecture. Quite a lot of architectures, one can say, yes. But if we will consider business architecture as a logical, consistent set of principles and standards that guides us how a particular field of commercial yeah, good. Yeah, perfect, yes. That guides us how a particular field of endeavor will exploit and explore. And informational architecture, we have to obtain that structure that defines how information is to be managed to support the key business process, data applications and services integration, sub-architecture, and so on. And finally, we come to necessity of obtaining so-called service-oriented architecture, well known as the SOA. And under SOA, we have to understand information architecture with fixed set of integrated services, as well as a strategy for designing software that helps eliminate the distinction between business processes and technologies that enable them. I tried to make all these contextually meaningful definitions as simple as it's possible, despite of our formal professorship. And now we come to the very interesting investigation which was made in our university concerning architectural challenges. In principle, nobody, and that is why it's in brackets, and business understands what it gives for profit, for getting money. As my colleague from business said, when I hear architecture, I immediately feel myself disgusting from all these definitions and professors' gimmicks. Yes, sometimes it's difficult to understand, but and business isn't satisfied with architecture agility. It's for the polite people and stiffness for a little bit more rude. Business becomes more and more independent, and it's also bother businessmen because they understand that their flexibility and their freedom seriously depends on how IT is developed in their circumstances or their facilities. At the same time, traditional IT slows down scalability and business development. Fantastic. But we have these results. Look on this diagram. It shows that 57% of the businessmen consider IT rather slows down their business. And only 23% think that it's rather developed. That means that something has to be done with IT. Or how do we use it? Strange thing. But at the same time, service-oriented architecture encompasses a slowly changed set of integrated services. These services, which has to be very flexible and very quickly changed, responding demands of the business agility, are difficultly and slowly changed. Here I want to present you just a key paradigm in IT management used in research during the last decade. From business process management established by Professor Scher in early 2000, business process outsourcing IDC 2001, Cloud Service Gartner 2002, Business Service Management by Michel Rosman and others 2009. You see how it's changed from year to year. And finally, crowdsourcing, mentioned in 2009 as one of the principal of IT community being gathered and combined. SDG, Subject-Oriented Business Process Management, Mr. Fleischmann from Germany, seriously established in 2010. And now it's became already recognized by Gartner and appeared in the Gartner investigations. And now I want to present you something which hasn't been mentioned yet. It's a multi-process, real-time business architecture. The general concept is very simple, and you can imagine it considering this slide. Look, here we have from one side, we have a chance online cloud modeling of the required architecture and realization of business process management on coherent workflow immediately, what is really necessary for every business. And at the same time, we have an ability for intellectual service sourcing possibilities, including intellectual resources into our workflow systems from clouds. Is it difficult to understand that intellectual resources could be in the clouds as well? Yes. But nothing, in principle, impossible. This is just a demonstration of subject-oriented business process modeling of a very interesting process, innovation. Innovation process. For those who ever considered innovation process in principle, it is absolutely evident that innovation process is extremely difficult to be described in definitions, in considerations, in concepts, from every point. But here you see just 4 items and links and nothing more. Why? Because not of the complexity of these items being included here, but generally because of an ability of transferring a lot of communications which are necessary for establishing the processes into cloud, and activated these communications due to the not very sophisticated logic, but necessary logic for maintaining such process. This is just a demonstration. Coming back to outsourcing business services, unfortunately I have to use first of all the term business service and outsourcing as a second. In spite of the fact outsourcing is an absolutely improper term, but nothing came to my mind better. The key idea is moving business services to clouds, generally, and giving each customer facility to leave the request for process service development, again in clouds. So that will give a new phenomenon. The problem of realization of the same service for several customers can be solved using client subscription mechanism and multiprocessing standards. Here is a very good reference to the old and very well forgotten operating system in IT, which were developed in the early 80s, real-time multiprocess operating systems. The same principle is used here, but now it's transferred into clouds, and clouds became responsible for its operation. Here is also the problem of service developers. The developers who will create these business services and allocate in clouds, and they have to be provided with a certain environment with convenient mechanism of service storage and retrieval, which is actually big data center facilities. And here the big data became a number one in the play, and really is a basement for all realization of this idea. And next is the mechanism of receiving money for the services, which is not very difficult, I hope. And finally, it could be found. Now, a slide with a real-time business architecture. And usually, we are, frankly speaking, we are used to consider clouds somewhere in the skies. Here I have located clouds as a basement of a real company. Why? Because clouds became the pillows for our business agility. And as any pillow, it should be soft to provide a certain flexibility for our processes, which now runs across the border, organizational borders, inside of the clouds. Now, some possibilities which appear to us. Here, we have a business who creates an idea for the development and online request for the service. At the same time, we need searches being done for available service through cloud search mechanism, and again, rating these services. The rating is necessary for us to understand what service is better, what is cheaper, what is compatible, and so on. Next is the necessity of organizational structures, groups of developers and the groups of experts who will create finally the necessary services and, yes, all what we need to realize presupposed model of the business, which is created and a service and switched on intellectual resources. And at the same time, a number of developers are locating their solutions for process maintenance in clouds, and these solutions either weighted or not. Never mind, because they will be somehow weighted by the users with different rates and prices indeed. And at the same time, a number of experts, as intellectual resources, they are allocating their intellectual profiles, IP, in clouds as well, either weighted or not, either qualified or not, but with different ranks and prices. Next is the final stage. As long as service is created and approved by customer, it can be bought and included as a part of corporate business process, or rejected, indeed. Next slide is composed from IBM slide, and here is the basis of the IBM classical slide concerning business architecture. I have used it to demonstrate that what is already possible to do, these areas, is today ready for cloud application. So, what is the problem? Let's go. Finally, I want to mention 7 benefits and threats of real-time business architecture. First of all, it's as a benefit indeed. Online simulation of the real business scenario from strategy to turnover, to the business turnover. It's indeed online optimization of the required resources, which is absolutely easy. Absolute. What's wrong? What? Okay, good. Absolute agility in architectural constructions, including intellectual resources. Agility in intellectual resources. That is a really goal of all our attempts. Business became absolutely independent from national boundaries and from its own beginning. And business became tradable without social impact. Because as long as you want to trade your business, to sell your business, you immediately find quite a number of social impacts inside of your business groups and employees. Business became independent from start investment because everything required can be loaned. And what is very important, that banks can easily approve required loans for business development because of its transparency and ease of co-ownership. The ease of co-ownership of the cloud business is a fantastic ability for a new era. And now, just 7 problems, which I consider, probably you will consider much more, and you can add your ideas here. Yes. It's unstable morality of the existing society. This is a very serious problem. To create a cloud-based business, the morality of the society should be seriously transformed to the more critical and stable positions. Market of the white collars is shrunken. No parachutes, no intrigues, no secret codes, no cash codes. Very boring picture, isn't it? Serious transformation of the lawyer's market. The lawyers will be required practically for the criminals and marriage problems. So, necessity of serious changes in legal regulation in parts from labor to retirement and pension. Yes, because the majority of the employees will be freelancers. Information security became much more consistent task and would require much higher professionalism, discipline and responsibility, hardly reachable for small business players. That means that it should be definitely outsourced on a very high level. Again, business security became more complicated task. And finally, probably very strange, it's a problem, I'll never do it again for the buck. That means that quite a number of people would have to do their job for the last penny. Conclusion. Historical development of enterprise architecture is going for the next phase of technological dictature. Yes, this is a really technological dictature which we either accept or not. If we will accept it, we will be in trend and will be well done, if it's possible to say so. In other case, we will be simply out of the business. Next is combining a set of known and upcoming approaches, the new concepts are appearing. That is absolutely clear, and what is very important is that the new concept break the organizational borders and bring dynamic network topology to the corporate process structure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gromoff. I think demand, supply and demand is arising a constant theme. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a constant theme, and I think this is a raising of demand, and in the room plenty of people who wish to supply. Because there's a rethink, quite clearly.